Hey, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to talk about right and wrong through the commands or through concepts. At a very early age, we start to arrive at what we consider to be right and wrong, our basic notions of morality. And for most of us, the things that we learned as children were not exclusively the Torah. So from these early learnings that we often have inclinations about something being acceptable or about something being forbidden. And these inclinations can be present even in the absence of explicit Torah commands. When we consider an individual infraction of the law, for example, something like stealing. Say that we have defined what stealing is. We're defining it according to the Hebrew word and according to the standard of the command. And as a result, we know what stealing means. And say that a person went and took someone's sheep. They took a sheep that belonged to another person against that person's will. And in this case, we can check that action, that taking of that sheep, against a command, such as the command of, "You shall not steal." And we can ask, did stealing occur? The person took that sheep, and it was not with that person's permission, and so yes, the command was violated. The person did wrong. He shouldn't have done that. He broke the law. He stole. That would be a clear violation of an explicit command. But what if we don't have an explicit command that we are working with? Maybe we don't have any commands in particular that we can refer to, but we have an inclination that something must be wrong. We just don't know where the command is. Maybe we cannot find the command that supports that feeling that we have, but we still have this feeling nevertheless. And as a result, we might let ourselves get into a different approach. Instead of relying upon the explicit commands of the Torah to tell us what is acceptable and what is not, we might go down the path of relying on concepts and description. If we do that, we might try to find a way to describe an action, describe the action in question in a negative light, that action that we have that inclination against. Or we might try to come up with a general concept that this action would seem to violate. For example, we might describe something as not being from Elohim, or as not being created by Elohim, or as something being not spiritually focused. And we can say that because that action seems to violate that concept, because there is an action that we would consider not spiritually focused, or because we can find a way to describe that action in a negative light in some other way, this would mean that it is against the Torah and has been confirmed as against the Torah according to that approach. And this could be done the other direction as well, saying that an action must be allowed in the Torah because our personal inclination is that it is okay. And we can find some way to describe it in a positive light, much in the way we would describe something we're inclined against in a negative light. This way of thinking certainly has traction with other belief systems, and in some ways it is the only way that right and wrong is defined in some of those systems because they do not rely upon the commands of the Torah. But if we care about the commands of Elohim, if we care about not adding to his Torah, not taking away from his commands, and if we are returning to his ways, we have to recognize that this approach is not how the Torah has been set up. Right and wrong in the Torah is not based upon each individual's personal conscience. We can hear things about everyone doing what is right in their own eyes, or about people following the dictates of their heart. And then we can see people out there that they don't care about him, or they don't care about his commandments. And we can think that those people out there, those are the ones that are following the dictates of their heart because they don't care about Elohim. But someone that does believe in Elohim can also follow the inclination of his heart and do what is right in his own eyes and still believe it to be right. We can assess an action, and we can be inclined to think that action is right or that action is wrong, and then we can find a way to describe that action accordingly. We can describe an action as violating some concept that we have, or as supporting a concept that we have, and then assume that because we can describe it in that way, that this concept must be a part of the Torah in one way or another. But if it is not a part of what is actually commanded in the Torah, then we are changing the law. We are given the law to know what is good and right in His sight, and so we can choose accordingly. And so we can learn how He wants us to fear Him. If we want to assess an action according to the Torah, we had better be working from the actual commands of the Torah. The law does not rely on each individual's personal concepts or the way that we can find to describe things or our personal conscience or feeling. Instead, it is an objective standard. It is a legal standard that is enforced in the Torah observant nation. If we want to know what He considers good and right, or what He considers to be wrong and not allowed, we should not look to concepts that we have come up with, or to compare it with some type of description that we might apply to an action. Instead, we should look to His commands. Thanks for watching, and remember the commands. Shalom.